everybody. Thanks for stopping by Killer Off-Road Hobbies, your one-stop shop for RC fun. Let's do this. As you can see, I haven't even popped the seals on this thing yet, so let's do that now. Pull the front open. Oh, it's beautiful. What? This thing comes with a body? That's weird. Really? I had no idea this thing came with a body. But apparently it comes with a body. So what I will do is I will cut this out and paint it and everything and not use it. I'll use the enforcer body. And then when we're all said and done, he will have the brand new Tekno body. Thank you, Bob. Awesome. So we got our thread lock and our oils right here. We've got our wing, which we won't need till the end. We got our bags, K, M, L, yada yada yada, a bunch of different bags. And we got our bag A right here. So that's sweet. I know it starts with the diffs. You start by building the diffs. And look at that. That looks pretty familiar, except a little bit longer. The good old chassis plate. And here we go with the sticker sheet and the builder's manual. Sweet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this, and probably this back in the box. We're going to get that out of the way. We will open this stuff and start the build. Opening the builder's manual. Sweet. What is that, page 14? Looks like they forgot a page in here. So, page 7, 8, 9, 11, 12. Yep. So, page 14 was missing, but they were nice enough to copy it and put it in here. That is awesome. So, I will put it exactly where it goes. Alright, so, as with the MT410, this is basically going to be the same build. We're starting with bag A. Bag A is the center diff, and going through the steps of building the center diff. So in the first part bag, you get A through H, and you do need your oils out because it does call for diff fluid and grease in this. So we are going to need these. So you're going to want to keep that out. We're going to be using our, in place of the plastic one it's sent with, we are going to go ahead and use our steel spur gear that Bob bought for us, or for him, for himself. And all this stuff is just laid out perfectly for you right here. You can check it out. So you open bag A and build the diff. So let's do that. Now, when it comes to making diffs, I mean, they're pretty much all relatively the same. I'm going to keep that as a spare for him, which he won't need because it's steel. But here's your cute little diff. It's got the bearings and everything. So we're going to go ahead and just open all this stuff and put it together. Okay, so opening our fluids, we got everything ready. It does want you to put grease on the little orange washer to kind of keep it down in there, lube it up, you know, a little bit. What I do is it sits in the bottom of the diff there, in that little spot for it. So I just spray a little bit right there. Doesn't take much, just a little bit. It's mostly kind of like a a barrier. Grease helps helps with like the oil, so the oil doesn't leak out a little bit, as well as the washer, the rubber washer. So basically I just do that. I just slip it over there, and then I take this and gently, very gently, push it down and seat it in the little ring in there made for it. So you get it nice and seated like that. And when you're putting this together, don't forget your bearing. And then we're going to slip the nice flat black washer over it, right like that. Awesome stuff. And then we're going to turn it so that we can drop our pin down in here. So you're going to take your little pin and a pair of needle nose pliers that I should have in here somewhere. There they are. You want to feed your pin through there. It takes a little bit and some patience, but you feed your pin through there and then you drop your gear down on it. And then it should just sit in there just like that. Right on, guys. So that's that part of it. And then it's calling for the 10,000 weight oil, so that would be this one. So we're actually going to put a little bit of this in the bottom. Just double check. 10,000 weight oil. We're just going to put a little bit of this in the bottom just to make sure it gets down in here nice. Alright, so now we're going to drop our spider gears in, making sure that the bottom one has that little notch aimed upwards. And your gears go towards the inside of the shaft. So when you put it on there, it should look like that with them facing each other. And then you just drop it down in here, making sure that flat part is aimed up. Right like that. And then your second part of your spider gears, we'll take the other one, making sure it's aimed down this time, the notch, and you do the same thing facing each other, right like that. And then you're going to drop it in the other side to where it makes an X, right like that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put your oil in there, because the other part calls for you to bust out the spur gear and put that side together. So we're going to get this full of oil and let it sit so it gets all the air bubbles out and everything. Alright, so spur gear side. So we're going to open our spur gear, which is substantially bigger, kind of looks like. Yeah, it is quite a bit bigger. Made for Tekno, so hoping that's not going to be an issue. It is a 48 tooth. Yeah, it's a 48 tooth. I'm not sure what the stock one is. I'll count it and put it right here. Alright, so spur gear, you're going to basically do the same thing. Put your bearing on, whoops. Put your bearing on, and then put your cup on it, turn it over, add some grease in the little slot. Put your orange washer on. Take your little hex head and seat it down in there, being very gentle with it, not wanting to damage it at all. Your black flat washer, slide it on there. Going to take your pin, find the slot and slide it in there. Sometimes they're hard, sometimes they're easy. That one was easy. It is much harder to do the one in the diff. And then put your gear on. And there you go. That's how that goes together. Now we're going to take our gasket, and what I like to do is just put a little bit of grease on here. Like I said, grease works as a barrier for like water and lighter fluids. Alright, so once the screws are in, that is your center diff ready to go. So yeah, that's basically how you do that. So what we're going to do, bag B is the front and rear diff. So we're going to go ahead and put these together, and then we'll be right back with the next step. Alright, if there is any differences, I'll show them to you on the video. Alright everybody, so we were on to bag C, which is the front diff housing and everything. One note to make is the difference between the front diff and the rear diff is in the front diff you use 10,000 weight diff oil, and in the rear you use 5. So make sure that you do that. So now what we're going to do is we have already put the body post on the shock tower, which you just get you get 8 of these screws here, and use the 2 longest ones to go into there, which are the TKR 1529s. They're much longer than the other ones, so they're pretty easy to spot. Now this is how the diff is going to go together right here. So this is the front, this is the back of the diff. The diff is going to sit in here like this, but first we got to put the pinion gear in there. So we're just going to slide one of our bearings in that side. The other bearing will go in the back side here, right like that. And then what we want to do is take the pinion and just slide it through there, right like that. Perfect. On this side of our pinion, we're going to take this tiny little washer here and put it on there. Hopefully you guys can see that little guy. And then we are going to take our output cup, slide it on there, making sure that this flat part is up. That's where your grub screw is going to go to, and just match that up with the hole on your output cup. So we're going to bust out the thread lock now and take our 2.5 millimeter hex driver. Going to put a decently generous amount of thread lock on that, and then holding the inside of the pinion and the outside of the cup, screw it down and then get it nice and tight. We want that not to move at all, so I am going to wrench that pretty good. Alright, so now that should just spin freely like that, remembering this is the front. So in the picture here, it shows the front, the diff, and the rear. So the diff is going to be facing exactly how I have it facing right here, and it calls to put just a little line of grease on the gear here. Alright, so now once your grease is applied, you're going to take your bigger shims and slide them over your cups, your output cups on both sides, like that. Wow, it's hard to look through the camera and do this. And then slide it in there exactly how it looks on the diagram, making sure your shims get seated down in the same area as your bearings, right like that. And then we're going to put the front on. Ta-da! Sweet. But put these two top in here, and then all you're going to do is slide your shock tower over it, making sure that the little grooves are going to be facing forward. So these have like an indentation right here that faces forward. So now we're just going to put the 4 screws in here, one there, one there, one there, one there, and this front will be done for right now. And then we're going to go ahead and do the rear, and then we'll be back. Alright, so that's the front diff and housing assembled, the center diff, and the rear diff, and housing and A-arm and everything. So bag E is going to be the rear wing mount, which is just really simple. You just got 4 screws, a couple nuts and everything. Super simple. So I'm just going to blow through this and then we'll move on. Alrighty everybody, so that's what the rear diff assembly looks like, and with the shock tower and the diff case and the rear wing mount. Rear wing mount went together very easily. Just kind of show you over here. It even gives you a diagram right here of like how much pitch to have with how you set it up and everything. I just did it the standard way where it's pretty nice and flat, as you can see, and it goes together really easy. These Tekno kits are just amazing how like easily they go together. Like all the holes line up, you know, you have your 3 little braces in here, and then all this stuff just lines up so well. The only thing that I would know are these little slots right here for the nuts that these bolts right here screw into. But other than that, I mean, we got the front diff and housing put together. We got the center diff already. Got the rear diff housing and everything already. And we're going to be moving on to bag F, which is going to have the track bar and getting ready to put on all the A-arms and everything. So we'll get into this. We'll open the bag and get rolling on bag F. Alright, so we got the track bar on. It's really easy. I didn't figure we need to go through that in depth. I mean, you just basically put it on there in the groove and then put the cap on there with these 2 screws, and then you just put your 2 grub screws in the actual thing, slide these 2 pieces on, put the grub screws in. Super simple, guys and gals. So I didn't think that needed to be shown on camera. So now we're going to put the hinge pins and A-arms on. Okay, so you've got 2 bulkhead blocks, and it comes with a bunch of these bushings that go in here. It calls for the ones with the dot in the center, which is the ones for the hinge pin being in the center, but it comes with all of these. So if you know how to tune your hinge pins and everything to skew your A-arms forward or backwards or whatever, normally racing people will understand this. I'm going with the stock setup here, but like I said, there is a ton of those things in here, to adjust like different different styles and everything of how you have your A-arms. But the difference between these two pieces is that this one has a narrower but taller little nub on it to go through the chassis, and that's going to be the one that goes on the inside here. So you're going to mount this with the little nub thing down on the inside right here using the two shorter screws, and then you're going to mount this on the outside after you put your hinge pins and A-arms on the outside here using the two really long screws. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and it says in the instruction manual, if these hinge pins don't go freely through here like this, to take a drill, to take a number 19 drill and ream it out to 4 millimeters to get that nice, loose action going on. Both of these are already ready. I didn't have to use a drill or anything, and they slide through there just fine. I think that's only in there basically just in case it's a little tight. But I'm gonna go ahead and put this on, and we'll be right back. Alright, so that's what it should look like. Making sure the shock mounting positions are towards the rear, and yeah, you just put the two screws right here, put your hinge pin inside of that, and then put the rear on and put the two screws in there, and everything's moving nicely. There's no binding or anything. What you can do is put your track bar in right now if you want to. You will want to thread lock the grub screws. I think what I'm going to do right now, just in case I have to take it off for some reason, is I'm going to put the grub screws in, but I'm not going to thread lock them yet. And I will make sure I thread lock them at the end, but for now, just in case, so I'm not popping the thread lock on and off, I'm going to just put them in there without thread lock. Alright, so bag G is your rear axle and hub assembly. So we're going to put together one CVD on camera and then one hub, and just kind of show you guys how it's all done, and we'll do the right side here. So first thing I'm going to do is slide in my bearings. So on the inside it gets the bigger bearing, and on the outside it gets the smaller bearing, like that. And then I'm going to grab my CVD drive shaft here, and for those of you who've never put one of these together, they're super crazy easy. So you just take your little inside piece here, I'm not exactly sure what it's called, slide it in there. What I like to do is make sure the little opening is up towards me like that. Then you just slide this over and drop your pin down through. So it goes through right like that. Should be even on both sides so that the bearing captures it. So we're going to go ahead and slide it through our hub, just like that. Got the bearing caught, but that's okay. And just making sure it spins nice and free in there. So then we're going to take our 17 millimeter hub, put it on the outside like that, making sure we line up our hole with the hole on the actual drive shaft like that. And then we're going to take this pin with the notch in it. It's slightly bigger. Hopefully you guys can see that notch. You want that notch towards the outside of the drive shaft because you're going to put a grub screw in here to hold it in place. Okay, so now we're going to take our nice big grub screw that comes in this little goodie bag, and we're going to put some thread lock on it. A generous amount, I guess. And then while holding that pin, making sure it's even on both sides, you just screw it into the end of it. And then what I like to do is get a pair of pliers and hold where the pin goes through, making sure that it's nice and even in there, and give it a nice torque, because hopefully that thing is going to be in there for a while. So there you go. That's your rear hub and CVD assembly. Thank you all for watching. That's going to conclude this part of the build, but we've got more coming up until this build is done. And you know, if you have any questions, please list them in the comments. Hopefully I'm going over all of this stuff enough to where you guys, with the owner's manual and the video, you can get your own kit put together and everything. Well, go ahead and thumb up this video if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Stay tuned, Killer Off-Road Hobbies. Subscribe if you're new here. Check out the description if you want to get a t-shirt. It's not this t-shirt, but it is a Killer Off-Road Hobbies t-shirt. Or if you want to be entered into any ongoing or upcoming raffles, check out the description. Once again, this build has been sponsored by Bob Cuzzy, and I can't thank him enough. This is just awesome. Being able to put this kit together for him and test it out and everything is just amazing. So thank you so much, and thank all of you who watch my channel and follow me. All right, see you on the next video. Peace.